Hey RVers, if you've been using one of those miracle RV black tank additives or treatments, brace yourself for a smelly disaster brewing in your waste tank. These additives can lead to stubborn, sludgy pyramids which trap waste and forms layers that stick to your walls like glue. The result? A foul smelling black tank that's a nightmare to empty and could leave your RV bathroom smelling like a sewer.
But lucky for you, you found this video because I'm going to reveal some interestingly shocking truths about RV black tanks and gray tanks to help you avoid making some of these really common mistakes so you can keep your bathroom smelling like roses. Well, metaphorically speaking anyways. Welcome back, Team Small Camper Fam, or if you're new here, hi, I'm Randy, and every Thursday I share tips and tricks to help you make big memories in your small camper. I've got 7 RV waste tank big no-nos to share with you today. But let's kick things off with the one I just mentioned, using a black tank additive or treatment. These things are designed to break things down or liquefy the waste that we deposit into our toilet, which of course gets dumped into our black tank. I know, this sounds like a smart thing to use, right? I've always used a treatment since day one. It came highly recommended. Yes, I've even suggested it here before, but I'm all about learning and improving. But here are where things go wrong when we do use an additive or a black tank treatment. As I said, most of these products are designed to dissolve or liquefy the waste. And when they do this, they're basically transforming our black tank into what's essentially a septic system. Our RV holding tanks are holding tanks, not septic systems. I'm not going to dive into all the details between the differences of a holding tank and a septic tank, but I'm going to leave an article in the video description below I found on the Kleen Tank website, so you can read more about it if you want to learn more about these differences and why they matter. Kleen Tank is a company that cleans RV holding tanks for a living, and they've been doing it for over 12 years, and they've cleaned tens of thousands of holding tanks, so they know what they're talking about. But it even gets worse. After an RV black tank treatment does what it's supposed to do and breaks down and liquefies our deposits, our tanks are filled with a thick, sticky, sludgy mess. Think of peanut butter or oatmeal. Yep, because it's thick and it's sticky, it's going to be hard to flush that out of our tank. So this sludge is the worst enemy for our tanks, but it could also clog up your system. And because it's stuck down there, this can cause horrible bathroom odors. Yes, I was shocked when I learned that using the treatments that everyone uses does more harm than it does good. But let me ask you this. Has your black tank sensor stopped working? Yeah, those sensors that tell us how full our tanks are located inside the tanks. And now that you know what happens when you do use a black tank treatment, now it all makes sense, right? Yes, of course, there's other things that could have gone wrong with our sensors, but it's almost always because of that thick, sticky waste that's built up inside the tank. But in gray tanks, it's the molds and the mildews that have grown in the hot, moist environment. I'm going to tell you how to get rid of mold and mildew in your gray tank coming up. So if we don't want gunky deposit buildup, what should we use instead? Finally, some good news. Kleen Tank recommends and gives all of their customers a free, simple
Black and gray tank treatment alternative.
and you and me, we can easily make this exact same formula at home. And I'm going to be making it for the first time in just a few minutes. But when you see what's in it, I think you're going to agree it's a game changer. But first, there's some more big no-nos that I need to let you know about. RV waste tank, a big no-no number 2. Not using enough water when it comes to your tanks. Yes, water. I know it sounds simple, but it's another thing that I learned from Kleen Tank. The way that we use water in both our black and our gray tanks can make a big difference. Did you know that when we skimp on water, we're actually helping those solids that we deposit into our black tank build up? And this can cause those clogs and those unpleasant odors that we never want to smell. It's a common mistake not using enough water, because just like we don't want our deposits sticking to the inside of our black tank, but we also don't want them piling up over time. Okay, I said that we don't want things to break down, and here's why. We want our waste deposits to float. Yes, you heard me right. We want happy floaters. I just got a funny visual in my mind. Well, never mind. When there's plenty of water and everything's freely floating around, your sensors are gonna work again. Glorious news, right? My black tank sensor stopped working years ago. Does yours still work? I can't wait to start this new way of doing things so my sensors work again. Okay, here are 3 essential takeaways so that we can start using water to our advantage. First, Kleen Tank recommends using the 2-flush system. This simply means filling the toilet tank once before and once after you make your deposit. And do this no matter what type of deposit you're going to be making. Get used to doing this double flushing action because this is going to help ensure that the paper and the waste is not sticking around to cause you any problems. And I've got a real interesting scoop on toilet paper coming up. Kleen Tank also says that we need to prime the system. Priming the system is done by adding about 1/3 full of fresh water to the black tank before we use it. We can do this by flushing water down the toilet, or you could just pour some water down with a bucket. Here's why this is effective. Holding tanks work best when there's a high ratio of water or liquid compared to solids or waste. So by adding water to the tank before you use it, you're giving your tank a head start. Now it's all ready for us to make our deposits so they float instead of sticking around. I don't know why I keep calling our you-know-what deposits. Anyways, what I was thinking, and you might be thinking too, is that if we fill our black tanks 1/3 of the way full right out of the gate, because of the size of our tanks, that's probably not very practical for us. For example, the black tank on my little guy Max is 9 gallons. If I filled my tank 1/3 of the way full and 2 of us were out camping, we'd lose a full day of usage. So the main takeaway is when we get to our camping spot and before we use our toilet, we need to put some water in it. And this should just be part of our setup process. Kleen Tank also says that we should use traveling water in our black and gray tanks. They say that when we leave our camping spots, we need to empty our tanks just like we normally would, but then fill our tanks back up 1/3 of the way with clean water. This makes sense because the motion of the water splashing around in the tank will help break down anything that's remaining. But we also need to be cautious when we do use traveling water. Water is heavy, so we want to be smart anytime we're traveling with water in our tanks. So please make sure you don't exceed your RV or your tow vehicle weight ratings. But the big takeaway is to travel with some water in your tanks. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're using traveling water, to empty it if you're putting your RV in storage for a while. The third big no-no is something that I was absolutely clueless about, and I'm gonna be curious if you've been doing this. But first, I want to ask you to please hit the subscribe button below because I've got more big no-no videos coming up that you're not gonna want to miss. And when you hit the subscribe button and you click all, you'll get notified when I do publish new videos so you don't miss out. Okay, RV waste tank, a big no-no number 3. Dumping your RV black tank or your gray tank when it's not 3/4 or all the way full. I've never given a thought about, are my RV tanks full enough to dump? But think about this. The fuller the tank, the better the flush. Think about it like a water slide. The more water, the faster the ride down, taking away all the gunk with it. When our waste tanks are less than 75% full when we dump, our tanks are going to act more like a lazy river than a water slide. We can get more gunk out by just pouring some extra water down the toilet for the black tank or the shower and the sink for the gray tank. This is going to give them that whoosh effect, just like the swirl you love at home, making sure that everything that needs to go goes. Is this something you knew about? Let me know. RV waste tank, big no-no number 4. Thinking ice will save the day. You've probably heard the old RV wise tale. Just dump a bag of ice into your black tank and drive around and let it scrub everything clean. Okay, you go ahead and you throw a bag of ice into your tank,
But it's gonna melt before it gets a chance to do any good, especially on those hot summer days.
The bottom line, ice is not the scrubbing hero that we've all wished for. It's about as adhesive as a rubber duck in a bathtub. For real cleaning power, you're just better off with good old-fashioned fresh water. So next time you're thinking about dumping some ice down your tank, save it for a nice cool drink. All right, let's roll on to one of the hottest topics in RV life and one of the biggest RV tank no-nos. Let me ask you this. What kind of toilet paper do you think that we can safely use in our RVs? 1-ply, 2-ply, luxury quilted, or the kind that smells like a spring meadow. And this is important because, as you know, what toilet paper you use is a big deal in the RV world. And if you're like me, you've probably seen those jar tests online where they add a variety of toilet paper in water and compare how fast they dissolve. So what's the real truth about toilet paper? It really doesn't matter what type of toilet paper we use. Yep, you heard it right from Randy. Whether it's the pricey stuff or the budget rolls. The key isn't what goes down, but how much water follows it. Here's the golden rule. Drown it generously when you go, especially when you're making a number 2 deposit. Give it a good flush by using the 2 flush method that we already talked about. So there you have it. Use the toilet paper that you want to use, and then just flush it down like a champ. RV waste tank, a big no-no. Number 6, putting enzymes and chemicals down our gray tanks, causing waste to break down just like those black tank treatments. This can make gray tanks hard to clean too. Sure, we always brace ourselves for our black tanks to reek, but guess what? Gray tanks can kick up a stink too, even though it's normally just dirty water. It's also a party spot for human skin and hair, soap scum, food scraps, and other gunk that you wash down the drain. And one of the stinkiest makers is mold and mildew. My kitchen sink has had a bad foul odor coming from it for a while now. And my hubby Tom, he took all the pipes apart underneath the sink thinking that it could be a P-trap problem, but that wasn't the problem. So I'm super excited to tackle the stench once and for all and get it out of my gray tank. Here's what we need to do to eliminate the odors from our gray tank. And the process is very similar to what we should be doing with our black tanks. First, when we empty our gray tanks, they should be 90 to 100% full. And second, we should add fresh water after we've dumped and before we use the tank again. RV waste tank, a big no-no. Number 7, not using the Kleen Tank waste tank formula. Kleen Tank says all we need to use is plenty of water to keep our waste tanks clean. But they also said that most people prefer using some sort of treatment, and I agree. And I'll leave the recipe in the video description below. All right, let's make this magic formula.
You need 8 ounces or 1 cup of Calgon Bath Pearls. This is going to keep the inside of our tanks slippery, and it's going to make it nearly impossible for our deposits and mold and mildew to stick around. The second ingredient is 40 ounces or 5 cups of pine salt. This is a great disinfectant and a great odor fighter. We're gonna mix the Calgon Bath Pearls and the pine salt in a clean 1 gallon jug or bottle that has a cap. I found it was really helpful to use a funnel to get these bath pearls inside the jug. There was only 3.5 cups in this size bottle of pine salt, so get a larger bottle than I got. Then you fill the rest of the jug with water, and you want to go slow to reduce the foaming. Then you put the cap back on the jug and you give it a gentle shake to thoroughly mix up the contents. Kleen Tank suggests that you put half a cup down your toilet and the same amount down your shower or your sink, and then follow this with 2 or 3 gallons of water to wash the solution down into the tanks.
I've got a question for you. Did you know that if you do not sanitize your freshwater tank at least once a year, it could make you sick? Yes, that's why not doing this at least once a year is another big no-no. And in this video right up here, I walk you step by step through the process. So click here to watch this video next. Well, that's a wrap, and I can't wait to hang out with you again next Thursday.